What's up, Tokos? This is Trent, aka TradeMark here. And at this point, Netmarble is just trolling the shit out of me. They're trolling me. I literally feel like a Netmarble employee has access to my computer, and anytime I'm about to release some big piece of content, they're like, oh, hey, let's push out a balance update that's going to change and ruin all of TradeMark's content. I was working on a tier list for the leaders in the game. If you guys don't know what a tier list is, it's basically just me ranking leaders and who I feel is the best leaders down to the worst leaders. And yeah, I was working on a tier list, almost done with it, and then they released this balance update, these details, which change a whole bunch of the leaders. And so now I'm gonna have to go back through and redo a lot of it, which is fine. I'll still finish the tier list. It was just a little frustrating that this has happened both of the past updates. So I'm gonna run through the balance update notes with you guys, give you my opinions on what the changes mean to the game. For the most part, I agree. Well, actually, I overall I understand and I agree with for the most part all of the changes that they made. There are a few more changes I would have liked to seen that I didn't, and there's a few things that concerns me about these patch notes that I'll have to cover. So Boss is the first nerf. He got a 0.5 second nerf to his snare, which is not too significant. I can understand Boss is a really great leader, especially in 2v2. He's has a lot of strong synergies, and so reducing the snare duration, that makes sense. I understand that. Thrawn, I also had Thrawn listed in my top 3 leaders on Empire. However, this nerf is a little bit over the top. I don't have the numbers. Netmarble has obviously the numbers for win rates and how often he's played and maybe he's being overused or he has too high of a win rate or whatever. But this is seriously, this double nerf really hurts Thrawn. So not only do your damage increase over time, not only is it slowed down, the huge nerf is that they took 1.5 seconds off of his speed and attack speed buff. So instead of 6 seconds, it's 4.5 seconds. Still a good skill, but that's a really big nerf. I'm not sure where he's gonna fall in alignment. I haven't been able to obviously play test it because the update's not out. I'll still probably use Thrawn. He's definitely not going to be as good. Boba here got a little slight buff. His base attack power goes up just a bit, which helps him in a lot of areas. He also had his unique buffed, which is you might see a little more play out of him. I don't feel like this attack power alone is enough to really see him like top the line on Empire, but it's a decent change. I love this change to Krennic though. So Krennic used to have a passive where you had to be losing. You had to have less towers than your enemy in order to get a 20% energy recharge bonus. And I hate those specials. I hate passives where you have to be losing in order to basically take advantage of their special or take advantage of their passive. So I love the change to it. Now instead of being only active when you're behind, it's just a flat 10% increase and it's active all the time. I can see Krennic coming into play a little bit more. There's really only like a few Kybers that played him pre-buff, and now I think he'll come into the fold a lot more. I still don't think he's... Well, I'll see, but that's a really awesome change for Krennic. It's good to see that he's going to have some passive that you can take advantage of you when you're ahead. Inquisitor is also a really interesting buff. They buffed his base HP and his dash speed and his consecutive attack power. Other melee leaders, there's other leaders in general really outclassed Inquisitor. So this brings him in alignment with those, and I really like his passive and his ability actually. So I'm going to try out Inquisitor a lot after this change and see how he is. I think he's going to be a lot stronger and be seen a lot more, especially because he's a starting leader for Empire. It's going to be really good for low-level Empire players. I feel like he's going to be like the new kind of Suicide Luke with these changes. So we'll see. But I think Inquisitor is going to be really strong after this. Next of all, Luke. Luke, obviously, or at least I saw this coming. I think most people saw this coming. Luke is by far the most hated leader in the game right now. Everyone complains about leaders or about Luke, and so they nerfed his HP a little bit and they decreased his run speed. That's a big nerf. His HP is not as significant, but the dash speed is what allowed him to, like, just at a moment's notice be Suicide Luke. You know, he can just be anywhere he wants to. And they actually just, in a previous update, they had increased his dash speed, so now I think they're just bringing it back to where it was before. Snowfire's played him throughout the entire soft launch, and even before the buffs to Luke, Snowfire was really good on Luke. So I don't think Luke's gonna be a bad leader, but he's definitely gonna be different to play. He's not gonna be as forgiving to where you can just, you know, sprint in, do a bunch of damage and die. So Suicide Luke is going to be a lot more risky. You're not going to see it as much. It's still a viable deck, and he's still a viable leader. He's, you know, I can guarantee you Snowfire will do just fine after that change, but it is significant. Sabine also got nerfed, which I think is interesting. I think Sabine was in a good place, so I don't know why they nerfed her. I mean, again, they have the numbers. They reduced her consecutive attack power. Now, this is the most concerning thing to me about the leader changes. I've always assumed this, but I've never been able to verify or confirm this, that when you're attacking and you do your consecutive combo attack, I've always assumed that combo attack is different damage. And this confirms it, that there is a consecutive attack power, but they don't post that in the card stats, which is horrible. From a statistical analysis standpoint, I really want to know what these numbers are, because it's really, really important if you want to analyze leaders by the numbers, that the developers let us know what the consecutive attack powers are, what their skill powers are. And there's a lot of things like Jin. Jin has a slower attack speed when she's at range than when she's in melee range. So when she's attacking from a distance with her gun, she has a slower attack speed than when she's in melee range, which is fine. It's an interesting mechanic, but they need to list both attack speeds. And so I'm hoping Netmarble will improve the descriptions on the leader cards and the uniques to give us exact data. Also, things like on uniques like IG88, they never tell us they only give us the base damage for the regular attacks. They don't show us what the special attacks are, consecutive attacks are, etc. And it would be great to know that information to better compare leaders and uniques. IG88, so uniques, IG88 gets a nerf, and this is actually a more significant nerf to boss than the snare nerf. So IG88 gets a 25% decrease on his AoE clear, and then he's slightly stronger after he spawned. The issue with this is that IG88 only barely clears waves right now as it is, so I'll have to test this once the update comes out, but I'm pretty sure that he won't be able to full clear swarms like Marauders and things like of that nature. I'll test it, but I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be basically a free AoE spell plus unit, which he was previously, and he was, in my opinion, the best unique in the game. But now he got a nerf, which is understandable. Like I said, he probably was the strongest unique in the game, but we'll have to see if it makes a huge difference. Next up is price, and I'm glad they made this change. You'll actually see down here as we go down that they reduced the energy cost of a lot of cards, which is really good because high energy cost cards, there's just not very many of them that are worth putting in your deck. It's usually much more efficient to run low cost cards and cycle through them. You have more options, you know, it's not as risky. And so I like this change. They put price down to 3 energy and increase the time that she recharges energy to 12 seconds. So she'll have to stay alive for 36 seconds now instead of 50 seconds to basically recoup the cost of spawning her, which is not that difficult. Basically, she becomes a free unit after 35, 36 seconds. So that's really cool. I can see her definitely being utilized now. I tried her previously. I didn't like her, so I ran Thrawn without her. But now I definitely think she's going to be used in a lot more Thrawn decks. Unfortunately, Thrawn got nerfed too, so this is kind of the only redeeming factor for Thrawn is that he can now use his unique, but I don't feel like it's a strong enough buff to his unique to make him as good as he was. Rail guards get a slight HP increase. It's actually pretty significant, and they needed this definitely because Bladesmen pretty much outclassed Royal Guards in most ways previously. So I'm glad they made this change. EP is just kind of a weak leader right now, so I don't see... I mean, if you have Royal Guards and EP and you use them, then great. I think Royal Guards are going to be a much better card now, and I would probably run Bladesmen still as well. So, yeah, I think that's a good change. Slave 1, so needed to change. And I said a while ago that needed to be 3 energy, or they just needed to completely redo the unique altogether. They dropped it down to 3 energy, and timing modified. I'm not sure what that means, but basically, this actually makes his unique usable. Previously, it was too expensive. It wasn't that great. Now it's 3 energy. It's gonna be the AOE card to run when you're running Boba. You'll be able to basically slave 1 into your ability and just decimate swarms. Any melee leader trying to swarm with their deck is just going to get wrecked by slave 1 Boba missile combo. So I like that. I'm still not sure that Boba's strong enough though to be like top tier in Empire. They nerfed Kenobi a bit. I don't think this is a big change. Kenobi's not used hardly at all in Kyber at high tier play. I think this will affect more the low to mid tiers. Luke's getting a nerf already too, so I don't really see. It's weird that they keep doing like these double nerfs. I feel like that's might be a little bit overkill. Same with Thrawn. Like, I wish they would just tweak one aspect of a leader and see how that adjusts things. But we'll see. Kenobi's only good play is to play into light vehicle or heavy gunners. That's like the most efficient use of Kenobi. So now you're still going to be able to do that even with his range of mind trick decreased. The only difference is that now you're not going to be able to take light vehicle plus stormtroopers or bladesmen behind it. It's just going to be a smaller range. And so I think Kenobi's still a viable card at low to mid tiers or in 2v2s. I use Kenobi in 2v2s. I don't like him as a card in 1v1s though. Hyper Adrenal. So these are the regular cards that were changed. I like this change. Is energy cost down to 2, duration down to 4.5 seconds. I feel like this could be used in some rush decks. If you get a kill on the enemy leader and you start a counter push, you'll be able to pop that Hyper Adrenal on all of you. 4.5 seconds is enough to get all your units right to the turret. So I think it might be used a little bit. It's still not an amazing card, but it's going to be seen. TIE Bomber dropped down to 4 energy. I still don't think this is a good enough change to make it be used. I don't like any support cards over 3 energy. So I would not use... I don't like any support cards or any structure cards. So I really wouldn't use... aside from regular turret for AT counter. But TIE Bomber, still not great. Maybe be used in 2v2, but still I think there's more AoE options that are available that this is not going to be used too much. Assassins, however, get a very interesting buff here. They drop to 4 energy without any other change to their damage. So they had a pretty good energy curve when they were at 5 energy as far as damage is concerned, but now they're going to be 4 energy, so it's going to be super efficient from a damage perspective. It's still the only reason I didn't run them when they were 5 energy is because it's expensive. It's expensive to run that 5 energy card that can be cleared by like an ion mine. Now you're running a 4 energy assassin card, 3 assassins. They're going to be dealing out more damage than bladesmen at 1 more energy cost. at least to leaders and to tanks and stuff. So you have another counter to tanks. You have an even better insta-kill on leaders. So if you stun into assassins, they're just going to melt the enemy leader. So I'm going to test these out a lot. I might even run Bladesman plus assassins. I think it's not bad to have both. The only downside to assassins is they don't do hardly any damage to turrets. Like Bladesmen do melt turrets, whereas assassins will not because they have a much lower damage value on turrets. But I think you're going to see them a lot more now that they're 4 energy with no drawbacks. At least I'm going to be trying them out a lot. Jump troopers get their range increased by 0.5. Now, I believe they already, in soft launch, I'm thinking they nerfed their range on jump troopers. So it's a little bit weird. Basically, they're bringing back the range to what it was previously. I like jump troopers as a card, but I don't know that the range is really going to make them that much more of a used card. It's mostly the fact that they can be cleared really easily by like one grenadier, or one ion mine or something. So they're, they get countered pretty easily on energy and cost you an energy disadvantage. I think if they were to either buff, rather than range increase, I would have rather seen just a slight HP or damage increase. But we'll see. They're not a bad card, and so this might help them a little bit. That's pretty much all of the updates. My biggest frustration with these changes are that they nerfed Bosk, they nerfed Thrawn, and they left Vader alone. Now, Vader, in my opinion, pre-nerf, was the best Empire leader in the game. And you can argue, you can make a case for Bosk or Thrawn or even Tarkin to be the best Empire leader, but Vader has a very strong claim to that. In Kyber, he is used a lot. And now, they didn't touch Vader, they didn't touch Afra. So basically, you're going to see a shit ton of Vaders from now on. And I've been avoiding using Vader, mostly just because I don't like him. I don't like his playstyle. But now I'm going to have to use him. Not have to. I'm going to try out Inquisitor and some of these others, but it's just like now he's literally going to be the go-to leader in the game. There's not really anyone that's going to be on par with him. And so that's assuming you have Afra. Without Afra, Vader is not nearly as strong, but with Afra and stun, you basically have double stun plus pull plus you have so many ways to protect your ATs, and you're tanky and you're it's just he's a very, very good leader, and now he's going to be a great leader. The best leader in the game, in my opinion. So it was a little strange to not see any change to Afra or Vader. I'm almost positive in the next balance update that comes, he's going to get nerfed. But yeah, overall, I really like the balance changes. I'm going to have to redo my tier list. You know who's going to be number one? Going to be Darth Vader. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Malo, aupito. Thanks for watching. Peace. I'm out here.